Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very senior and accomplished professional from Sweden, Helena Nordstrom. Helena, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Helena is the head of sustainability, strategy, and transformation for Monitor Deloitte in Sweden. So, Helena, before we talk sustainability, tell me about your own journey in brief.
Absolutely. So I'm one of those people who didn't have a set out path from the beginning, I think. I've always known what I wanted to do as a next step, but I didn't have like this grand vision from when I was 20, which is actually one of those things that I often tell younger people when they say like, well, okay, what should I do? Where should I go? Do I need to know everything in advance? Like, I'm sure that there are those people who have that grand vision from day one, but it's also okay to be like me, like jumping a bit and figuring things out along the path. So in short, I'm born in Stockholm. I have an engineering background. I at least knew that I wanted to do that. So I studied electrical engineering with a nuclear physics focus.
Wow.
And then I ended up in Ericsson, which many people do who study electrical engineering in Sweden. I did a management training program there and some years in product management, also working quite a lot in China at the time, which was exciting. And then I, after a couple of years, felt I wanted to try something different. So that's how I ended up in management consulting or strategy consulting.
Okay.
Because I also love to work with many different people, try out many different things, and work in a sort of problem-solving type of manner, if that makes sense.
Fascinating.
So I did that for a while in different settings, different companies. And then in 2017, I had two small kids and I was commuting 2 hours a day, which is probably not long for India, but it was tough for me. And I felt the growing, sense of that I didn't have a purpose in life. The climate change was accelerating. We had all these issues. And although Ericsson, which I was at the time again, it's a fantastic company with a lot of purpose-driven activities, but I still felt that I need to work more hands-on with the climate crisis. I had the opportunity to join a climate tech startup. So I did that, and that sort of set me on the path of actually working with sustainability topics, which I had been wanting to do for a while, just hadn't found the right sort of timing and setting.
Amazing.
And then I did that 5 years and felt for many different reasons that I wanted to go back to a bigger context again, work more, closer to local clients and sort of also put two and two together. So I had the strategy consulting background from before, and then I had the sustainability and innovation competence and experience from the startup years, and then I decided to go back to big consulting again last year.
Fascinating. So we'll come to sustainability and your role at Monitor Deloitte. But when I was reading, you also said that there is a deep connection between our inner and outer world, reflected in climate change and ecosystem destruction. Help me understand this with an example.
Yeah, I'm thinking you being from India, you're probably closer. Maybe that's an assumption that's not correct, but I'm thinking that it's easier for me to talk to you about such things than, in the very rational Western world. But I mean, in essence, we live in big cities, right? Big concrete blocks, very far away from nature. If I use this sort of slaughterhouse analogy, people become vegetarians when they see a cow being slaughtered. Like Paul McCartney said, like if all slaughterhouses would have glass windows, you would much more people would be vegetarian. And I think the fact that we are so far away from nature in many senses, but we're so reliant on it, it's created this sort of disconnect. And then also just the fact that mankind has become so brain driven, like our brain is so totally dominant in how we think, and everything is needs to be like rational and numbers driven, and we've lost connection with the heart. So yeah. If we, I mean, I really believe that we need to heal that sort of disconnect first to be able to really go out into the world and solve the climate issue, because it's all connected. I'm not sure I did the story in the best way, but
no, but I think it's a great example.
Yeah.
It's a great example you've given, and you're so right. I mean, in India, of course, it's a very widely held belief that there is a very deep connection between your inner self and the outer self, and how, for us, climate change, earth, everything is treated as mother. So, but you're so right. So coming back to now sustainability, Helena, on a very, very macro level, what would you say are some of the sustainability challenges we are facing in our world?
I mean, if we start from the very basics, I mean, we know that we're putting too much carbon out into the atmosphere, obviously, and we're digging out too many resources from the world, and we're destroying our topsoils by the wrong type of agriculture practices. So, and all those things are interlinked as well. So, climate change accelerates all the issues we have with biodiversity loss and droughts and so on. And it's all very much interconnected. But as top themes, it's the climate crisis, resource depletion, biodiversity crisis, all leading to that a large part of the world will probably not have a place to live because they won't be able to grow food sometime in the future, or already now, as in some regions, and which leads us to displacements and war and other very sad issues.
Correct. Well said. And yet, I wanted to get your perspective. You must be working with many companies or corporates as in your role as the head of sustainability strategy and transformation. I wanted to ask you, how seriously is the subject of sustainability being taken in boardrooms?
Yeah, it's a very good question, depending on where you are in the world, I think, and in which industries you are. But for sure, a growing importance. And we see great examples where boards really take, the ultimate responsibility for incentive structures, for setting the vision for where the company wants to go, seeing that in 10 years' time or in 5 years' time, if we don't have a real, sustainable business strategy, we're not protecting the value that we built, and we'll definitely not capture the value going forward. So I would say it's very varied. There are definitely examples where boards need to recruit people with sustainability background as the first step, and really take an end-to-end responsibility. But there are also very good examples of when they do. So I would say varied.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And when we talk sustainability, we're talking of impact, we're talking of ESG, we're talking of sustainability. And most large companies are talking about these. And and they're doing a lot of these companies are doing a lot of great work. But how is this really percolating down in the medium and small organizations where the numbers are much larger?
You mean how SMEs are handling?
How are the smaller businesses, not the major global companies, but how aware are they of these challenges? Because a small change in these companies will make a significant difference because the numbers of companies are much larger.
Yeah, that's also a very good point, which has the same analogy when it comes to the actual consumers, right?
Correct.
The ripple effects.
Correct.
So I think just like in the question of the boardrooms, SMEs handle it differently. There are those who are actually being able to move faster and braver than the average big corporate, because they're smaller, they can run faster and so on. And then we also have what we call like sustainable natives. So the companies that were created not that long ago with a grand vision, and their whole business strategy and purpose from day one is something purpose-driven or sustainability-driven. They obviously do a lot, and by showing that it can be done, so being able to run faster and showing that the whole purpose end to end of a company can be something sustainable, they inspire other, both small and big companies. So big companies that might not be able to change as fast. I think we also have the collaboration opportunities there, because the SMEs might have like a really good solution that a big corporate would need, and then you can have startup or scale up collaboration with the big corporates and so on. And I think in terms of sustainability, that's one area where companies really, really understand that they have to collaborate as well. So less of a competition fear. But then, of course, in some SMEs, they simply lean back and say that the regulations don't hit me yet. I can be lazy. I can try to get as much out of the market as I can before I have to change. So very varied, but for sure, you're onto something. There are many ripple effects that can happen because the SMEs can run faster and be braver.
Correct. And based on a lot of my conversations, Helena, I've generally seen that the Scandinavian countries are very conscious about sustainability, but yet there are many other countries which have not yet progressed to where they may want to be. I wanted to ask you, does culture have an impact on sustainability?
That's also a tough one.
Very often culturally we are told when we're in school, when we're in college, how important is the climate change, and it just goes beyond lip service. And I know in the region that you live in, everyone seems to be very conscious.
Yes, but we also have, some major consumption going on this side of the globe. So,
yes.
So I mean, I understand that the Nordics often seem like foreigners, and we are in many ways, but we also, consume a lot, and we're a wealthy part of the world. So we are part of the problem for sure.
Okay.
But in terms of culture, I mean, yeah, of course it does. I mean, if somebody tells you that climate change is not real and you believe it, or if you feel that, or if you have a tougher life and you just need to make a living and things like that, that's not culture though, that's survival. So that's another thing. No, but of course I think it definitely has an impact. Then I don't think I have any deeper insights into how, except norms obviously affect how you see things. I have friends in the US, for example. But in the end, when climate change will hit you, and it will, culture will not matter anymore.
Well said.
Yeah.
The other perspective I wanted was that, I'm for example, from the boomers generation. And when I talk to millennials and the Gen Zs, who are the younger leaders coming in the world, and they're bringing a breath of fresh air into most organizations, I want to get your perspective on how do you see the younger leaders handling sustainability matters, because they are much, much more aware.
They are, for sure. And they come with the demands as well. So, I mean, we see more and more in interviews with newly graduated people, for example. They ask, okay, so what's your sustainability strategy? What are policies in X and Y, and things like that. So it's both the general sustainability topic is more and more important, and they're willing to change to other companies or even take a pay cut to work for a company that is more purpose-driven.
Yeah.
So that's one side of the coin, but then we also have the whole like we talked about, the more spiritual side of things, or life balance side of things. We see some changes happening also in questioning the way of the world. Like,
correct,
you work this many hours we need to take care of ourselves too, and things like that, which is a really good development, I think. Very much spiritual, and giving some space to reflection and other things. So I think it's a good development that Gen Z is questioning, state of affairs. So.
Very interesting. You also do a lot of work, Helena, with sustained tech startups. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing there, and give me an example of the kind of work they're doing. I mean, I don't want any names, of course.
Yeah, no, but absolutely. I mean, I both worked with sustained tech startups during those 5 years when I was running my own company, and we do it a lot also now inside Deloitte. So with corporate collaboration, corporate and startup collaboration, and it's everything from climate tech and carbon markets and things like that to other types of ag tech and food tech, and depending on which business model our clients have, of course. So I personally have quite a lot of background in climate tech and ag tech and food tech, but also like different sort of digital platforms that can connect all the different stakeholders that need to collaborate. So SDG 17, if you wish.
Yeah.
So enabling platforms that connect the NGOs actually doing the ecosystem restoration work, for example, with the big corporates that want the platform to communicate their purpose on with the consumers. So those are also very needed.
Interesting. And I have time for two more questions. My next question is that as the head of sustainability, strategy, and transformation, what are some of the challenges you face when you talk to clients? And what have been some of your incredible successes?
I can start with successes. So I feel that I have success when I can follow a client from the very early explorative phase and actually be with them along the whole journey to piloting something that has physical impact.
Correct.
Right? And that's my favorite type of work when I can actually be part of that. So I'm driven by being able to measure my physical impact on the world. So that's success to me, and that's also what we managed to do. Super. Yeah. So, and then to come to my final point, I think I mean, we're not in a stable world right now. A lot of things are happening with war, inflation, and other types of crises. So I think a typical thing that we discuss and help companies with today is how to manage the trade-offs between short-term crises-driven type of decisions that that they need to make, while not losing sight of the long-term sort of sustainability vision, and all the major investments that need to be done on a continuous basis to not deviate from the goal, so to speak. And that is a difficult place to be. You need to work even smarter and prioritize even harder to be able to manage that. But for sure, the ones who do down prioritize too much will not be the winners of the future.
Very interesting. And my last question to you, Helena, and this is for the thousands of people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your amazing understanding of sustainability, what would you say are 3 lessons you would want our viewers and listeners to take away from your own journey and from all the knowledge that you have?
I mean, I can start with the first one that we also started the conversation with, but is, as inside as outside. You won't be able to change the world if your heart is broken, or if you're not taking care of your soul, or body for that matter. Also, like in hope there's hope in action. It can be really tough to look at what's going on in the world and feel that, it doesn't matter what I do. But if you actually just get out there and do something, you will find hope, because you will be able to see the small impact that you can have, and multiply that with the hours you work and with all the people around you that you inspire. I think that's one. And then everyone can do something. I mean, not everyone is a climate researcher, for example. But like one of my favorite influencers in the world is Lewis Pugh. He's a professional swimmer, and he swims the Antarctic, and he also swam now around the place where the COP was last year, he swims in really, really tough waters and really far distances, just to make people aware of the fantastic ecosystems that will be destroyed if we don't do something. So whatever you're good at, you can just use that, but channel it to the sustainability purpose, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Wonderful. And on that note, Helena, and your amazing lessons, as inside as outside, take care of yourself to be able to take the world. And there is hope in action. And the second one you said was everyone can do their bit. You spoke about the Lewis Pugh, but I'm going to now read a little more about Lewis and see if I can figure out a way to go and talk to him as well. But thank you.
He's amazing.
Thank you so much for speaking to me about your own journey, about sustainability. Thank you for speaking to me about all the work that is being done in sustainability and all the things that can be done in the area of sustainability. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.